Today, in addition to the administrative team, if we have any new parents that are in the webinar right now, welcome. I'm Jason Bacani, the principal, 8th or 9th year at PW. So proud of what we've accomplished and looking forward to a great year. We have Mr. Ascona, who's here as part of the panel, Mr. Bretz, assistant principal of athletics, as well as activities, Ms. King. She'll be going over student support services this presentation, and Mr. Price will be reviewing specific technology items, and including our one-to-one initiative as well as Canvas. And I want to thank, they're on the top of the agenda because how busy they are, the busy lives they run every day. We have Ms. Hanold and Mr. Gregg, our senior class sponsors, as well as Ms. Lynch, our college counselor. And I wanted to tailor it to a lot of the senior questions from parents that we've had. We're hoping to answer a lot of the questions. And as I told the staff, we pivoted quickly to full virtual learning. And we met with the chairs today. There are a lot of questions that we're answering on the fly. We'll be sure to have them before the start of the year. So we'll be hoping to do that this evening. Some of you already found it. There is a Q&A feature in the Zoom webinar. So if you have any questions at all, please feel free to post that. I told my team to monitor that throughout the presentation. So we'll be sure to post answers if we have them. If we don't, we'll make sure we get that to all the senior parents in due time for sure. All right, what is this hour going to look like? We're going to tip off with Mr. Gregg and Ms. Hanold, senior class officers. I know they've been, sponsors, excuse me, they've been working with our class officers the last couple of weeks. In communication in terms of what the fall planning is going to look like. Mrs. Lynch, college preparation. I'll review virtual learning goals, priorities, as well as expectations. And Mr. Ascona will go over items in terms of expectations and attendance. Mr. Ascona and Ms. King will go over student support services. Mr. Price will review technology, our transition to one learning management system, what that's going to look like. Ms. King with some special programs, and we'll close Mr. Bretz in terms of activities and athletics. Well, if you take a look, it seems like yesterday we had 2020 on here, how much that we did as a team to support the seniors. We understand, the entire team at PW, the community, the board, Dr. Christian, what this means to our seniors. And I remember my year back in PW, way back, how special it was. And we want to make sure we maintain that tradition at PW, make it a special year for all of our students, despite the start of the school year being virtual. With that being said, I am going to turn it over to our senior class sponsors, Ms. Hanold, Mr. Gregg, to go over a few items pertaining to the class.
Thank you very much, Dr. Bacani, and thanks everybody for coming tonight and letting us kind of come and speak to you for a couple of minutes. I promise I won't take much of your time. Really what I want to do before I hand it over to Brian is just to kind of do some introductions, introduce ourselves to you. Again, my name is Jennifer Hanold, and Brian Gregg has been my partner in crime here, class sponsor wise, for 16 years. So if you had prior children in the class of 2009, 2013, and 2017, we had the privilege to kind of walk along their journey with them. And we take a great deal of pride in that. And that's why we couldn't be happier to be able to help represent the class of 2021. And with that said, more so than us, we couldn't be happier and more confident in the group of leaders who have chosen to step forward in such an unprecedented time and help us make this year truly special. So with that said, I want you to know them, because if you see them, give them a congratulations. And also they're going to be a very big liaison and connection between the students and class leadership. So the president of the senior class this year is going to be Robert Bobby McGuire. Vice president is Jason Wyke. Our treasurer is going to be Madison or Maddie Couric. Secretary is Kennedy Covington, and our coordinators are Victor Kowalski and Dean Suchland. Mr. Gregg and myself and this team of leadership, we understand that this year is going to require flexibility. It's going to require positivity. and we couldn't put more faith in them. So we're very proud of them. Just to give you a heads up of what we've been doing, I'm gonna, before I hand it over to Brian, last week we did meet with Dr. Bacani and Mr. Bretz and had some really good conversations. Mr. Gregg and myself spent an hour on Zoom yesterday with class leadership talking about everything from, you know, how do we welcome back our seniors, you know, what are major events gonna look like, which Mr. Gregg is gonna talk about, and you know, how can we get kind of creative with fundraising? So we talked about a gamut of issues. So we just want you to know that there are lots of things in the works, and we're excited to work hard and really make this meaningful and special for the class of 2021. So like I said, Brian's going to talk a little bit about some events so you kind of understand what's on our calendar and what we're looking at.
Thanks, Ms. Arnold. So I wanted to go through and talk a little bit about a few of the different events that we're going to be doing this year. And first and foremost, I just have to say, we really appreciate the support that you guys have provided for us and for your kids over the last 3 years. And more so than ever, we would ask for your support again this year as we move forward. We know it might look a little bit different than it has in the past. But our goal is to make it look as similar as possible. So with that said, we are currently working on a welcome back. The PTSO had some great ideas as to things they wanted to put in place for the seniors coming back. So we are having some conversations. We're going to continue those conversations this week in hopes that we can get something together for the kids, for the seniors, as they come back for their senior year, the first week of school. As far as homecoming goes, right now, sports look different than they have. PIAA has some policies in place, which basically keeps us from being able to necessarily do all of the things that we would want to for homecoming. What you need to know is that we have all intentions of putting on a full homecoming week the way it has always been done before. If the time comes that we have to make some modifications, we'll do that. Right now, our biggest issue is just timing. So chances are homecoming was technically supposed to be the last week in September, I believe. At this point, our football season, which homecoming game is you know, surrounds the football team, that's probably not going to happen. But we are going to talk about moving forward with a homecoming week. It just may be later in the year. And so we will have our wing bowl, which is, you know, an opportunity for kids to come in and just, you know, have some fun. We do run a color wars with the great phys ed staff that we have. I'm a little partial. The powder puff, we'll have the girls come in and compete in powder puff, and then our homecoming football game, as well as the homecoming dance. And that's very important for us as a senior class, because senior year, the senior class puts all of those events on, and the fundraising that we make from that is what provides all of the great opportunities for your kids later in the year. So we're able to provide things for them with some of the fundraising we get from these events. So our goal is to put them on. We just don't know exactly what that will look like. We also have our junior prom was obviously postponed. The new date is November 2nd at Drexel Brook Catering. We have no idea at this point what that will look like. We have reached out to Drexel Brook. Ms. Hanold reached out to him. We're waiting for a response back. We need to talk that through with that administration, but it may look different. It may get pushed back. We're not sure exactly what that will look like. As we move later in the year, our goal or our hope is that things have settled down a bit and we can really move forward with all the great events at the end of the year. So the earlier events may get pushed back, but our later events we're hoping will run as scheduled. And so we have senior dinner on April 8th. That's at Normandy Farms. We have senior class trip from the 21st through the 26th, and you will be getting more information about that from me separately. I will send either a Connect Head Home, or we may actually have a meeting virtually as well, so that people can ask questions and I can answer questions for you about that. But you'll hear more about that soon. And then our senior prom, which is on the 4th of June. And so our goal and our hope and our desire for your kids is to put on the best senior year that they can possibly imagine. The biggest concern for us right now is just timing. So it may not happen as scheduled, but our goal is to make it happen for your kids. So please understand, we will do everything possible for that to occur. And we thank you for your support. If you have suggestions, thoughts, feel free to email Ms. Hanold and I, and we will just continue to move forward and do the best that we can with the situation that we're in.
Thank you, Ms. Hanold, Mr. Gregg. I just have a quick question. I know that a number of parents asked about the status of the senior sunrise. I think it obviously is a tradition at PW. I don't know if you discussed that with the officers or from putting you on the spot at the moment, but I know the parents had questions about that.
Yeah, so I think at this point, I think at this point, we're going to have a hard time bringing that many kids into school together. But we did talk to the officers a little bit about it, and we're trying to work out possibly a plan that we can get approved by, administration, Dr. Christian, just to do something else. And we're not sure exactly what that will look like yet. But again, we're kind of talking that through and trying to figure out exactly what that will look like.
Thank you very much. And parents, I know that you have interest. We talked to Ms. Hanold and Mr. Gregg. I know that we'll work through the PTSO, so I'll have Mrs. Harris if she's out there in the crowd. If you're interested, I know the PTSO will be the link to working with our senior sponsors, and we appreciate all of your support in trying to make this the best year ever for our senior class. Mr. Gregg, Ms. Hanold, much appreciated. Thank you for your time.
You're welcome. Thank you.
You're welcome to exit or stay if you'd like.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Lynch, thank you for being here, our college counselor. We'll be going over supports, resources, as well as testing.
Thanks, Dr. Bacani, for inviting me. I feel like I've been doing a lot of prepping and messaging with students and families this year, but it's good to be able to kind of hash out all the details of college planning here. Just to the parents out there, please know I'm a parent too, and I have a rising kindergartner in Colonial, so I also have worries and expectations and hopes for this school year, a little different than yours, but I think what we found out from this is we have to kind of pivot and be flexible with those hopes and have faith in the process. So, the college planning process is already very detail oriented. It's form filled. It's got a lot of uncertainty tied to it. So I'm hoping that all of the support I can provide students this year, even if it is virtually at the start of the year, still, help students navigate that already kind of confusing process. So I'm going to talk about some of the supports and resources I've provided to students, and you will have access to a lot of those as well. The Canvas College Counseling course is something that students have had access to since the spring. I am going to be inviting class of 2021 parents as observers in the next day or so. And so what that has is it has links to all kinds of resources. It has a timeline. It has a checklist. It also has a calendar that includes not just PW events, but also includes regional events. I know Pennsylvania Association of College Admissions Counselors is holding its own college fair virtually. There's also national college fairs if students want to learn more and connect with schools. And so all that kind of information is available on there. I also have video tutorials that I've been sprinkling in throughout the spring and summer so that students kind of have a play-by-play of how to set up accounts and things like that if they're not able to get to any live application help sessions. That's the other thing I've been doing this summer, application help workshops. I will be running more later this week and next week as well. But those will continue through bonus block throughout the fall semester. And I've been getting anywhere from 2 students to 7 students. And I think it's been a great environment for students to collaborate, ask questions, hear the questions, understand they're not the only ones with those concerns or questions. And I'm also able to work with and get to know some students in that small group setting. We're also still going to have college reps visiting us. It's just going to be virtually. And so those are going to take place during bonus block, lunch, after school, and there will be a couple evenings per week that students will have access to colleges. It's usually the college admissions counselor for our territory that's meeting with us, so that will continue to be the case. And so it's definitely not too late for students to take advantage of that opportunity because it's going to get them familiar with the school and help them also have some face-to-face meaningful interaction with those folks. I also do individual student meetings. So that is, it's up to the student if they would like to meet with me. The counselors do meet with the seniors to do senior check-ins, but I can definitely help them dive deeper into the college process. I'm sure the next section is weighing on a lot of parents' minds, the SAT and ACT testing. I am told that we are planning on, as long as, staffing works out, as of now, Colonial is planning to host the August SAT, adhering to health guidelines, which includes 10 feet of space between testers, mask wearing, glove distribution, and collection of materials. Upcoming test dates will be assessed as the dates approach to determine safety and staffing needs. So that, as of right now, is happening. What I will say in that same breath is test optional is becoming more and more available at colleges and universities across the country. And so what I would encourage your student to think about is, if they haven't taken a test yet, do they want to be in the testing environment, or do they want to take another test? If they are registered, it's going to be a personal decision if they do want to test. But I wanted to let you know that over 1,000 colleges have added test to students. Many colleges are responding to the situation, knowing a lot of students aren't going to have access to testing, or they may not feel safe testing. And so test optional is an option. Hundreds of colleges within the past couple of weeks have also signed a pledge assuring students that test optional means test optional. And so you can find that, that on the Canvas page, as well as if you go to Google. If you just type in test optional means test optional, it'll show you the list of schools that have signed that pledge. So if you have any reservations about test optional, I'm hoping that will help better, give students a better idea of what decision to make in this process. And then more recently, NCAA waived the testing requirement for this year's seniors. So that's good news as well in the event that students aren't able to test. The last thing that I wanted to mention, I usually run evening programs and events. I am going to continue to do that. The first one early on in the year is usually the college application process for senior families. I'm planning on doing that in early September. I will communicate a date very soon. Also, once the free application for federal student aid is open on October 1st, we will start to have FAFSA application workshops, completion workshops. It's usually a 30 to a 50 minute, depending on how much material people bring with them, but it's usually a 30 to 50 minute process. And the goal is to have families leave the session with their FAFSA complete. It's going to need to look a little different this year than it has in past years when we did it in person. But those types of opportunities will still be available. And then lastly, we are going to have a financial aid night with PHIA, the Pennsylvania Higher Education Assistance Agency. I set a date with them back in the spring for mid-November. So if you did have specific questions to the FAFSA or the state grants, those are going to be able to be answered by the experts from PHIA. So that's it for me. Dr. Bacani, are there any questions that have come up in your past few weeks that I didn't address here that you want me to?
I think you hit every area, so we appreciate it, Mrs. Lynch. Anything in the question room, Mr. Rascona, in terms of college counseling?
Yes, in fact, Mrs. Lynch, are you able to see the questions in the question? Can you answer there are 2 questions specifically for you there? Would you be able to answer those?
Sure. So communications about dates for college events are going to either be on the PW counseling calendar. So if you go to the PW website, it would be on the PW counseling calendar or Canvas. I've also been communicating with students via Google Classroom a little bit, but I will be sending out to parents a Connect Ed with all of the counseling events for the year, or at least for the fall semester. So they will be coming out to folks that way as well. Schools were supposed to tell College Board on 8/17 if they needed to cancel the test at their location. What did PW tell College Board? I am not the coordinator of the SAT, but I am assuming that PW told College Board that we are moving forward. Dr. Bacani can correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes, I was in, thank you. I know that's a big and quite potential testing. I appreciate everyone's patience with the SATs. We have 55 PW students, over 250 students from other schools in the area. And I understand the importance of it, as well as the safety end. And speaking with Dr. Christian, we are investigating. We talked to the College Board. They understand where we lie right now in terms of planning the SATs on the 29th. We appreciate everyone's patience, but as Mrs. Lynch just mentioned, there are a lot of factors that we need to take into place, which includes having strict social distancing guidelines in every area, as well as having enough proctors, which we're looking at right now. So we're in the planning phase. If you can sit tight for another day or two, we will be in touch in terms of our communication plan with SATs. The College Board is aware. We talked to them via phone, Ms. King and I, yesterday.
And I had one other question that I can address that's not, SAT, detail specific, but about the FAFSA events or the FIA event, if it would be live or virtual. With November being pretty far off, we're going to be able to adjust if we need to. So if it needs to start as virtual, that's the plan. And then we can always move to a live in-person session if we are allowed to, if we're able to. The person who's presenting is someone who comes to PW routinely throughout the year. So that would not be an issue.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you
And
for your
please reach out to
time.
me if you have questions, everybody.
And we didn't see your kids. It's a good thing. Jumping in,
Yes.
right? Your Zoom. Thanks so much for your time.
Thank you.
Speaking of pivot, that's the term everyone's using now. We're going to turn our attention to the reopening of schools. And I'd like to thank the school board, Dr. Christian, as well as the community, all of your time in terms of planning for this. And it is not easy. It's a moving target for sure, and we appreciate everyone's flexibility. Just so as everyone has an understanding, there are 3 different phases. We will start off with the virtual phase 100% until 11/27. Hopefully, I know that the school board, Dr. Christian, will be reviewing that every few weeks as we transition safely to a hybrid learning phase potentially. We're going to go over today. Number 1 is the feedback that we received not only from our staff as well as the committee work over the summer. I want to thank all the parents and staff members that participated in that. We've been working since the end of the school year. So when graduation was complete, I know our team prepared for the hybrid, and then we are continuing to prepare for virtual learning. And we had a department chair meeting today preparing for it as well. So we're going to communicate with all families what our expectations are. We heard, once again, the feedback. We understand the situation we were in this past spring. The feedback was important to us, and that helped us develop our plan for the fall, helped us develop professional development this past summer, next week, starting on the 24th in terms of synchronous and asynchronous learning. We have 4 goals for remote learning. Again, I'd like to communicate that it will not be perfect. We're open for feedback. Our staff is working extremely hard on the back end to produce high quality teaching and learning for our students, and that is our goal. Number 1, we were going to set and establish, which we're going to share, expectations and standards and maintain consistency. What's important, we've heard, is maintaining a schedule. I have kids at home. In the same scenario I had in the spring, I'll have again in the fall. Having a set schedule throughout the day is critical. We'll be maintaining that, and we'll be sharing that in a second. Mr. Ascona is going to go over attendance. I know there was a question in the chat room about that. He will review what that looks like, when the expectations with attendance and accountability. Overarching goal, we take great pride at Plymouth White Marsh High School, what we offer in the classroom instructionally. We want to maintain that level of rigor and relevance and high quality remote teaching and learning. Our goal is to increase synchronous learning opportunities, and we'll define that for folks that we've spoken with. They're the live teaching opportunities with our students. Ms. King is going to go over support. One of our goals is we understand virtual learning is a challenge for all of us, for adults, obviously for high schoolers. We want to make sure we have safety nets academically and socially. And finally, and we heard from the board meeting, and it's critical, is the social and emotional well-being of our students. How do we keep our students energized, enthused, and really engaged in everything that we have to offer at PW? And we'll talk about bonus block, what we have there, and we obviously had our presentation from Mr. Gregg and Ms. Hanold in terms of the senior class. So if you take a look at the schedule here, and this was shared with our staff, developed with our department chairs, we feel really confident in what this offers. Number 1, we'll start off every morning with virtual announcements. Spoke with Mr. Peeler, Mr. McWilliams today. It will not be me, although I know the students will be very upset not to see me every day or every week. We'll be our students every day. We'll have our morning music. We'll have our daily announcements for our clubs. We'll have our college visits from Ms. Lynch, et cetera, in the morning from 7:50 to 8 virtually. As you can see, each block is 1 hour. We have 10 minutes of the transition. Block 1 will start at 8 o'clock in the morning until 9 o'clock. Without giving up Mr. Ascona's slides, will be the expectation all of our students are live on Zoom synchronously with our teachers. Our teachers will be on live at the beginning of each period, and we'll end each block synchronously as well. Again, we'll talk about synchronous expectations in a second. We have 10 minutes of the transition time between classes. Important that chance for our students and our staff to stretch in between and take care of what they need to do. We have a bonus block is after second block, and this is feedback from our staff. We are keeping it, and you saw one of our goals is social emotional well-being. What makes us great at PW is the wealth of activities that we offer our students. And Mr. Ascona will talk about bonus block later. It'll be also an opportunity for our students for office hours or support to meet with their specific teacher or teachers. Continuing on and on and until lunch at noon. Block 4, 12:35 for an hour, and then we'll end with block 5. Expectations for our students, and before I move on, Mr. Price made this really pretty, so to speak, guidelines that we have here. We need your support with this, and we will be communicating this with our students. Spring virtual learning was an experience for all of us, including administrators and adults. We want to make sure that there's exact expectations that are communicated for our students. Number 1, they're live on video. They're finding a really comfortable place that they can work in front of their teacher, checking their technology early, muting themselves when they're not speaking. All of the rules that are associated with PW will be associated with virtual learning. So the respect is expected from our teachers, and our students are fantastic with that. But we really appreciate your support at home with that as well. It's important. We're trying to increase synchronous learning opportunities. However, there is accountability with that and expectations. So we appreciate your support once again. I'm going to turn over to Mr. Ascona in terms of attendance, and then I will get into the instructional expectations per block.
Hello, everyone. As Dr. Bacani mentioned, it's really crucial, and to make sure that we have structure and organization for students. We learned a lot from our experiences at the end of the, when we became virtual last year. So we learned what we need to do in order to make it a more effective program. So attendance will take place each day, even though the announcements are a very good thing to see for students, and students should participate in that. It's not mandatory. We would certainly like for them to log on 10 minutes earlier and view the program, but attendance does start at 8 a.m. every day, which is first block, and the initial attendance will basically count as the daily attendance. So just as we do in school when school is in person. PW is going to count for students' daily access. Obviously we expect students to be in school when we're in person, and we also expect them to be in school virtually. Many parents and students understood or maybe had issues with the students not logging on at a reasonable time and then staying on late. Obviously, we feel that the school day is important, so we're going to follow with these timelines that are issued. So we have a regular schedule or a modified schedule that's giving kids a little bit more time to sleep in, so that we can make sure that they're there in person. So also what's important is that we have, since it's a virtual environment, we do have ground rules in place where students have to maintain certain expectations and also attend all their courses. So we are implementing certain criteria in order to promote students, in order to keep students on schedule and keep students on task. So very important. If a student is missing any classes, they will be considered as classroom cuts, just as they would in school. There will be consequences for that because we have to make sure the students are present and aren't missing assignments. Also, when a student isn't in a classroom that they're supposed to be in, they're typically not able to make up those assignments. So it's crucial for students to attend all of their sessions. And just to backtrack, our goal is not to have students sit in front of the computer and listen to a teacher synchronously for the entire 60-minute block. We've instructed teachers to provide a balanced approach, so students have instruction from a live person and then have time to complete assignments and then check-ins throughout the session. Also in place is credit denial. So just as we have in person, if a student is misses a class more than 15% of the time, then they may be denied credit. So therefore, just want to reiterate that we want to make sure that students are on time, participating, and taking their learning seriously, because our teachers are really preparing diligently in order to provide a stronger experience than they had when schools abruptly closed last semester. In addition, we did provide training for teachers, and we're going to continue to provide training for teachers. And lastly, we totally understand that students have hardships and technical difficulties and so on and so forth. So please feel free to share that information with your teachers, with administration, because we want to be fair, but we want to keep a rigorous environment for our students.
Thank you, Mr. Ascona. And for the sake of time, I apologize, parents. We do have 25 minutes, so we'll have our team really, as best we can, obviously present all the information, but keep you at ending at 7 o'clock. Just a definition, and parents, it's just for your vernacular, so you understand our expectations, what we're communicating. Synchronous is the live, real-time instruction, with asynchronous being self-directed and self-paced. Much different, as Mr. Ascona mentioned, than the spring. As we mentioned earlier, students will be following 5 classes throughout the day, the regular schedule. It'll be a combination of synchronous and asynchronous learning daily. Research says and indicates it should be a blended learning approach. Students should not be in front of the computer live for 7 hours. But there will be a greater emphasis on synchronous learning this school year, in addition to with a blend of asynchronous activities during the class period as well for our students. Our teachers during the block will be available for students the entire class period on their Zoom, one-on-one support, small group instruction, or office hours. Governor Wolf maintains the 180 190 hours for all schools. That really helps us. In the spring, it was waived. That means standard grading practices, in addition to attendance, will still be in effect for Plymouth White Marsh High School. We understand, as Mr. Ascona mentioned, regarding hardships, the student misses a lesson, so will be posted and recorded the asynchronous activities as well on Canvas. Parent had a question, I know in the chat room, thanks Mr. Bretz for sending that over regarding work. The spring was much different due to a lack of schedule, and our students will be working vigorously within their blocks and their classes. Homework should mirror what it did a typical year traditionally. Our students should not be completing asynchronous beyond their block. They are, it's an extension of their class, which will be called homework. Before I turn it over to one of my team members, we're proud we've had training all summer, in addition to training next week on Canvas. So the entire building will be transitioning to one learning management system, which will be much easier for all of you as parents. Mr. Ascona, can you briefly go over bonus block, please?
Certainly. So bonus block hasn't changed other than virtually. So students will still be able to sign up for certain or participate in certain clubs, activities, help sessions during the virtual experience. Actually, I take that back. The only thing that's really changed is that students will be completing the bonus blocks or participating in the bonus blocks virtually via Zoom links. So all teachers are providing a recurring Zoom link for bonus block. We will be posting that on student Canvas pages so that they can they can sign up for a teacher's bonus block, whether it's a club or support, help, and then they can log into the Zoom and get that face-on-face that they, or face-to-face support that they desire. So that's in place.
Thank you. Ms. King, Student Support Service.
Hi, everyone. Yes, there are a lot of questions in the chat room about that. So student support services, IEPs and 504s will be upheld. We will have IEP meetings. They will be virtual. Your case managers will be contacting you. If you have any specific questions, you can ask them to the case managers, or you can email or call us at any time. Again, we will conduct ourselves as usual in regards to supporting students and having those meetings. With student level supports, we also have all of our counselors, our community counselors, we have instructional aides, our entire care team. We've designated time so as not to interrupt the instruction. We're going to adjust some of the counseling hours. We're going to maximize that bonus block time and time when the students are not live with their teachers. So we're really trying to make sure we don't interrupt that virtual instructional time so that we can support everyone and have all of the team members present. In addition, we last year ran a program called PWHS where our high school students supported students in some of the elementary schools. We're going to look to continue that, but we're also going to look to have those students support our students in the school, some of our older students supporting. So that's definitely in the works as well. So we're really focusing on how we can put as many supports in place as possible. So any questions, please feel free to email me. If it's an IEP specific, again, you can speak with your case manager or any one of the administrators.
Thank you, Ms. King. Technology, Mr. Price.
Thank you, Dr. McConney. We heard everyone loud and clear. We know it was very difficult, especially for parents who would expect students to be in the classroom live, to then be home and as a parent trying to figure out all the different logins that a student may have to try to help them and support them in all the different ways. Dr. McConney mentioned we have moved to a learning management system. It is consistent at the high school. It is Canvas. We were in the process before we were pushed to the virtual platform last year, but it has been decided. Teachers have received training, and there will be communication. I'll share with you on the next slide in a moment about logins. A PW survey did go home last week regarding the need for Chromebooks. If we go back one more, Dr. McConney, first. And we are tallying those responses. It will be part of our distribution, Mrs. King will talk about later. We will also have our library media center set up for support questions, a live person rather than an email address or an account that we utilized from the technology department last year. This way we will have people manning the phones and the email and hopefully get a response back to you right away. Just like this evening, we've been emailing as the presentation has been going on. Hopefully that is more convenient for everyone. Canvas training materials and resources will be shared with parents as well. And then you'll also see here the systems and logins. This Thursday, a ConnectEd will go home to all families. The standard login for Canvas, for PowerSchool, for the health portal, which we call SNAP, and even for the college and career readiness pieces, such as Naviance that Mrs. Lynch mentioned, are all going to be a similar login, the same exact component. This information will be shared, but at any time, what we want is for parents to be able to reach us so we can get you the right spot. So if the Naviance account isn't working, we don't know what's happening, we have our help spot at our main office, and we will direct you to the proper administrative team who can help. If we go to the next slide, Dr. McConney, real quick, and I promise to move on as fast as I can. Regarding the first day of school, what would students expect? Well, we want to make sure communication is clear. All teachers, and we've talked with the department chairs today, who will be sharing it during our in-service week, students will receive a personal invitation from their teacher prior to the first day of school with a quick little Zoom link, almost like an invitation, when, where, and how to access. The teacher will go through all the protocols, some of them which we mentioned this evening, as well as how to get into the Canvas courses. PowerSchool courses, as you know, are live for the high school as of yesterday, and students can see their classes. Many of them have been working with their counselors if there are any questions. Parents and families will gain access by attaining a code within the system that teachers will walk each student through. There were ways for us to generate it and send it to you. We thought this was much easier so that your student will have very specific information on how you can see from your side access to their courses as well. You can see a bunch of job aids here that the curriculum department is working with staff to prepare for you. So if you need to know how a calendar is set up and how to get automatic invitations, all these kinds of ideas are there for you as well. The resources will also be posted on the district website. And of course, as usual, if there are anything along the way that parents say, this would be very helpful, we're all ears open and hoping to streamline it for everybody, making sure that everyone has access to everything in the classroom. Dr. McConney, I'll pass it back to you.
Thank you. And parents, just a reminder, if you did not complete that survey in terms of a device for the upcoming school year, please do so. Mr. Price will make sure that's on the website because I know some parents did not receive the information. That way you have easy access to that link. That'll be important information for us as we distribute devices.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Mr. Price. I know that in the Q&A, Mr. Esco and Ms. King mentioned there's a question about tech school. Ms. King?
Yes, so I saw a few questions about tech school. So please be aware there will be communication from tech school directly, but if you have any questions, you can certainly contact my office as well. All students who are returning to programs for tech school will be attending in person in tech school on Fridays. Not the first week it will start, I believe it's the 18th. is the date. And they will be excused from their classes at PW, responsible for the work, but their teachers will be notified that they are going to be at tech school and will not be attending their live classes at that time. During the school week, I know some of the questions have come up and said our schedule does not match the tech school. What the tech school has communicated to me is that they will not be live every day with their students Monday through Thursday. They will be assigning them work to do, and the students will have times where they can log in with their teacher. So it is okay that their schedule at the tech school does not match up with our blocks 4 and 5. Any students that are new, which probably are not on this Zoom right now, they will be fully virtual. But again, any questions, please feel free to reach out to tech school or to my office.
Thank you, Ms. King. Mr. Bretz, extracurricular.
Good evening, class of 2021 and parents and students. I know this is a big hot button topic, but PW is always out for the well-being of all the students and coaches and faculty and staff. We want to make sure everybody is safe and well prepared to take on the fall sports season. However, in guidance with the governor's office and the Department of Health and PDE, sports had to be put on hold. And the Suburban One League also voted a few weeks ago to put a 2-week delay on low and moderate risk sports. And as you can see on the slide, what low and moderate risk sports are. And then a 4-week delay on high risk sports, which is football. So as of right now, heat acclimation is set for September 7th or possibly the week before, depending on what the PIAA makes their final statement this Friday in regards to what they are planning on do if we're moving forward with sports. And then it comes down to each league and the District 1 to make their decision on if we're going to host sports or not. But we do have some things that we have to consider with that, and that is all the guidelines put in place by the governor and Department of Health in regards to student safety and wellness. And as you know, the health and safety plan was board approved and superintendent approved, and that is what we're following currently until we can move forward with whatever the guidance is set by the governor and the Department of Health. And then we are looking forward to trying to start up moving to a different phase starting next week and getting the physical forms collected and everything. I know the coaches have sent out emails in regards to that, trying to get some of that equipment and stuff taken care of, paperwork that we can make sure everybody's ready to go. This would include marching band and cheerleading as well, with a 2 to 4 week delay, depending on what information comes out as well. Normally cheerleading and marching band goes along with the football. So we're going to kind of stay right along in those guidelines of August 31st to September 7th, depending on what it comes out. I can't answer any other questions at this time in regards to that, what practice would look like, what time practices would start, all the same questions that I'm asking. We don't really have answers to at this point in time because we're waiting on the decision from the state of how we're going to move forward. And again, if you have any questions or concerns, you're more than welcome to email me or call me in the office, and I'll gladly get back to you as soon as possible. And I hope everyone has a wonderful start of the school year, even though it is in this setting. I cannot wait for everyone to be back in the building because it is kind of boring being there by myself and no one in the hallways. So again, hopefully everyone's safe. Have a great evening.
Thanks, Mr. Bretz. I want to thank the PTSO, as I mentioned earlier, Mrs. Harris, Ms. Dombrowski, as far as co-presidents, highly involved with our seniors. They will continue to be involved with planning for this upcoming fall. We sent the email over to Ms. Hannell and Ms. Gregg. First PTO meeting, Wednesday the 2nd at 7 o'clock via Zoom. If you're interested, again by our parents and especially our PTSO. Going to stop here, and I'm going to actually ask my team because we do have several minutes, which is great. Perfect, about 8 minutes. I know there were questions in the chat room. A couple of them which I wrote down, which Mr. Brett sent me. Number one was in terms of recording sessions. We did teacher direct teaching will be recorded. on Zoom, and then saved and posted on a teacher's Canvas page, as well as the asynchronous activity. Second question was about the quality of instruction. Again, we'll go back to what we mentioned earlier, that the spring wasn't perfect. Again, our staff went from what they do best, teachers in front of them, not only the science, but really the art of teaching and building relationships with our students, but pivoting quickly to virtual learning is a challenge for sure. However, we feel strongly about the professional development that we've provided and will provide next week, as well as the expectations, which are much different in terms of having a set schedule, as well as set expectations and structurally for our entire staff and students. So the two words that I'll use, number one is support, because it takes support for our teachers and our students to be successful. And the other one is supervision. I think it's our job, obviously, as administrators to support our staff to ensure that they're hitting the mark instructionally. Going back to our goals, number one is having high quality remote teaching and learning for our students. Going over any other questions in there in the chat room that we can answer for the parents?
Sure. One of the ones being asked is that originally when we were on hybrid, there were not going to be classes on Fridays. That has changed now that we are fully virtual. So there will be classes every day under the virtual model. And again, any communication all communication will go out if we change to a hybrid. We will over communicate how we will proceed at that point.
Mr. Brett, if you can answer, are we still practicing? What about winter sport open workouts, such as what occurred with fall sports this summer?
So currently we are not doing any winter sports workouts because they're all basically inside. Currently we are trying to get the fall sports up and running, which we're having a difficult time doing in regards to following all these guidelines and making sure that the students and coaches are safe. Part of the problem that we have is if we bring more students onto the campus is the fact that we have to kind of stay within the guidelines of how many people are on each field at a given time, and the entire property can only have about 50% of the population on there. All right. So we're kind of stuck with how we can possibly do that safely and making sure for volley or for basketball and wrestling, I can't put wrestlers in the wrestling room. That's a high risk sport right now. And so is basketball considered a high risk sport. And swimming, we're currently not going in the pool to put people in there. So we're kind of wait and see approach for the winter sports at this point in time.
Dr. Bacani, we have two questions I can answer in regards to Canvas, if you'd like me to do.
Thank you. I'm in the chat room answering some questions. You can go ahead and do that, Mr. Price. Thank you.
Okay, one of them is, will there be breakout sessions through the Zoom and Canvas, and can teachers pop in and out of them? We have upgraded our Zoom license, so to speak. Sorry for that. And teachers do have the ability to have breakout rooms. They will go through that with the students, and they will be assigned small groups as you would normally see in the classroom. Teachers absolutely, as Dr. McConney mentioned, are expected to be part of the class the entire session, even when students are working on their own, and they'll be there for questions, even though they may not be live instructing and popping in other sessions. Additionally, there was a question about test security or assessments. We just purchased a new piece that will integrate with Canvas. It will take a few weeks to integrate. It is called Respondus. So when teachers are doing formative assessments and quizzes, Respondus will have a lockdown browser where students will not be able to open up windows. They will also be instructed on how to utilize that as well. For major assessments and benchmarks, students will use what we believe for most of them, Linkit, which also one of our assessment features has a lockdown browser as well. And that should help ensure security of test questions. Colleges are using this. And lastly, academic integrity, as I believe we mentioned earlier, will be in effect.
Parents, we would like to thank you. I know there's several other questions in the chat room. I see the names in there. We can give you a call, or please, as we all mentioned, and I put in a letter, we are here to support. The first encountering this, but we're all rolling up our sleeves to ensure our students have a safe and successful start to the school year. We will be having and sharing and recording a video for our students as well with the expectations, and our staff will be sharing this as well, their first day of school, their for each class. And for all of your support, reach out to us if you have any questions at all. Thank you and have a great night.